So I'm Kate Orff from Scape, and our challenge was that New York City moves at a breakneck speed, and often its residents need to take a break. So the challenge, or our wouldn't it be great if moment, is wouldn't it be great if we had a public resting place on every block, and on top of that, if there could be a locally maintained network of pocket parks. So we at Scape have designed a lot of pocket parks and small parks for the New York City Parks Department or the New York Restoration Project. So we really decided to focus on this first challenge, which is a public resting place on every block. And what would that mean? So my first question was, okay, a public resting place, but for who? And moreover, for what? Assuming that we could expand the thinking about the who to include sort of non-human animals, and we could kind of use this challenge to think about diversifying habitat for the rich mosaic of urban wildlife that exists beyond the human in our urban landscape. So my client, as I choose to give it to choose to make it, is not only people but also ospreys, oysters, mussels, ants, all of the critters and creatures that we all of the critters and creatures that we kind of have our share our urban environment with. Oh, can I talk? Oh, good, I can walk. This is great. Okay, so let's back up. Okay, so our challenge as we made it for ourselves was to try to expand the who, in this case, from not only people, New Yorkers, tourists, but all the other critters and creatures that live in the New York urban landscape, including ospreys, oysters, mussels, and ants, because all of these creatures participate in the dynamic ecosystem that is our city. So with that also, we had our partners, Tim Lynch and Andy Wiley at DOT. And so I really thought that maybe this could be more like a parasitic concept, that we could think about working with zones in the DOT and objects that the DOT, in this sort of DOT realm, and we could sort of work parasitically with them to retrofit them to create places of comfort for not only animals but people. So we started with, perfectly, the Cobra Head light, this ubiquitous light pole that Linnea mentioned. So we thought, well, how could we start to work with these street light poles that are all over the city, but work with the base of these light poles to try to identify an opportunity for seating and comfort for people. So we thought about, okay, well, maybe there's a way you could begin to retrofit the base of these light poles and have a kind of like a pull-down seat, as you can see on the right there, where it would lock into place. There could be signage, you could sort of snap it out, have a seat, and then these street light bulbs could also be retrofit with sort of a Wi-Fi situation. So as you can see on the right, it could be a desk, or on the left, it could be a seat. And then we also thought, okay, so the DOT also has this great Green Streets program, right? So we could begin to build on that Green Streets program and start to work in some of these traffic median islands like you see along Broadway, and identify some of these median islands as an opportunity for expanding kind of public open space realm. So comfort added, we could add retreats for sort of humans on these kind of fold down light poles. And also we can enhance the sort of planting palette within these medians to include not only like the preordained, approved, specified street trees per the DPR, as we all know, but we could actually add a whole shrub layer of berry-producing shrubs and flowers, etc., for pollinators and ants. So here's a potential site on the left, Allen Street here, and how we could kind of retrofit one of these median spaces with not only seats, you can see in blue, but also this kind of more diverse shrub level of berry-producing shrubs for critters. Where else can we find these underutilized structures? Well, we look to the marine environment, and everywhere, we see these kind of marine piles that are ubiquitous in the urban landscape, and also bridge footings of the many, many bridges that cross the East River, Hudson River, Jamaica Bay, and other key water bodies in New York. So we thought, okay, well, let's start there. That's another kind of vertical place where we can begin to introduce this kind of comfort retrofit for animals and people. So we're looking at the base of these kind of vertical structures. And so we thought, okay, let's add some comfort for osprey nests and add oyster, mussel, and aquaculture platforms, and in addition to Wi-Fi hotspots in the case of the osprey nest, also an osprey cam. So here we have on the slide on the left this idea of retrofitting a marine pile with a slight platform, or rather a seat for oysters. Right now, the marine piles are often timber piles or concrete piles, and they don't have a place for little baby oyster spat, which is after oysters reproduce. They're in the spat stage, which is where they're a little microscopic organism, and it flows through the water and tries to find a place to land, often, in best case scenario, on another oyster, or on a piece of limestone or rock or something. So we could retrofit these piles with an oyster-loving material, or material that an oyster could stick onto. Same goes with bridge footings, as you can see on the right. And my DOT partner had a great insight, which was that actually, as New York Harbor's water gets cleaner, the great irony is that, of course, our wildlife is thriving. One of those pieces of our wildlife is the marine borer. And in my oyster texture project at the MoMA, we actually had devised a sort of system where we were integrating the marine borer and this sort of decay into our matrix of oyster habitat. So it was kind of speculated that this sort of oyster platform retrofit, sort of sheet to pile retrofit, could be kind of a key part of how New York is already beginning to retrofit our timber construction along the piers of our city. So here's an example of what that might look like and a potential site out of the bush piers. So you could have these kind of this kind of new sheath, a new kind of concrete sheath for all the piles, and you could integrate not just a straight line, but you could sort of integrate miniature platforms where these oysters and mussels could begin to attach onto, grow, and of course, over time, potentially, the water could become cleaner. Ospreys, birds. I'm a New York City Audubon Society member and fanatic, I guess you could say, bird fanatic. And this project is actually something that SCAPE is working on with Bart Cheser, which is the New York City Harbor Osprey Initiative. And what Bart is doing is going around to local businesses and getting a very small donation. We sort of have worked with them to site these structures and design the structures. And they are primarily now out in the Greater Harbor. We've got one going in Governor's Island and also in Sunset Park. So, and they're basically old, they're robinia trees or black locust trees. So we've come up with this sort of design that has typical osprey nest construction and a web camera, which is powered by a solar panel. So we thought, okay, let's make comfortable seats for these birds and add and enhance the sort of network of osprey nests in New York City. So why that's important too is that we have, a network now of a couple of nests going in, but when osprey have little baby fledgling ospreys, little baby ospreys, they want to come back and roost in the same area. And of course, as you all know, our New York waterfront has been kind of summarily removed, cleaned of dead trees, which is where an osprey would typically nest. So this is essentially making sort of a fake dead tree branch. And our thought was that we could sort of add this network of piles and start to expand the network of piles for not only one generation of ospreys, but future generations of their sort of fledgling ospreys as well. So this has sort of our sort of my last image here is not only, I guess you could say, a seat for an osprey, but it's really like a bed. So a bed, not an osprey bedroom. And so that's my presentation.